Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to make sure that we are live. All right, everybody. Welcome. It is week 7 of the Fresh on Deck Healthy Living classes with Fresh on Deck Mobile Farmers Market. So we have this week, and then we also have next week, and that is it. Next week is also going to be a holiday. I'll have that up on the last couple of slides that we have and tell you about the days that will be out. But next week's class is going to be recorded. So we won't have a live class next week, even though it is going to be our last week, but we do observe all DeKalb County holidays. So we will not be here on Monday. But I just want to go ahead and just get started with today's lesson and just let people in as they come in. And so this week we're going to be talking about nutrition labels and smart swaps. And so like I've said in the past, depending on what goals you have, it might be to just be more aware of the foods that we are eating, and that's okay too. So we're going to talk a little bit about the nutrition labels and how we are able to just read through those labels and know what we are eating, and if we want to take that into account in the foods that we choose, or whatever the case may be, whatever your goals may be. And so we will do that as well. So just want to acknowledge that this lesson is adapted from a lesson developed and tested by the University of Pittsburgh. I say that every week, but also it is based on a diabetes prevention program. You don't have to have diabetes or any other type of disease in order to get something out of this information. So this objectives of today's class is just, we're going to be learning how to interpret serving sizes and calories, fat, sodium, carbohydrates, fiber, sugar, daily values, and nutrient claims. So those are all those basically words on the side of the prepackaged foods that we usually get from the grocery stores or whatever stores that we're shopping at. And so just talking a little bit about what these things mean and what do they mean for me, really, and what they mean for you, and how you decide to choose items when you are buying them. So the goal of food labeling is just to provide information to help keep people, that helps people keep a healthy diet, or a healthy diet, or even just being aware of what they're eating. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a healthy diet, it's just whatever you're eating. And so more than 2/3 of Americans are considered to be overweight or obese, and about half of American adults have at least one nutrition-related chronic disease. And so that means that we need to be making informed decisions. And so that is one of the reasons why we have all this nutrition labeling, and why they have updated that nutrition labeling. I think it was back in 2016, the FDA updated the nutrition facts labels on packaged foods in 2016 to reflect updated scientific information. And so the updated labels make it easier for consumers, for us, to make better informed food choices. And so everybody, that was in 2016, and I think everybody was required by 2021 to make those changes on their products. So you have been seeing them in the past 2 years now. I think it was January 1st, 2021, when they made it mandatory for everybody to have it all changed over. So we've been seeing these new nutrition facts labels for 2 years now. And before 2016, it had spent 26 years unedited. And so there was a lot of new information that was out. And so I'm glad that they were able to do that. And so you might have noticed from the old labels or from the new labels that some things are more bolded, some things are more enlarged so that you can see them a little bit better. And so I'm going to actually show you all a quick video just talking about the new nutrition facts labels. Are new, not really new, but new-ish.
The Nutrition Facts label provides information that can help you make decisions about the foods you eat. Here are some tips to help you use the information you find on the label. Start at the top and look at how many servings of the food are in the package. There are 8 servings in this package. Next, look at how big the serving size is. We can see for this item, the serving size is 1 cup. Pay attention to the size and number of servings you eat or drink, as it may be bigger or smaller than the serving size listed. Below the serving size is calories. The thing to remember with calories is that you may consume more or less than what is listed on the label based on the number of servings you eat. For example, if you ate 2 cups of this food item, you would be consuming 460 calories. Everyone has different amounts of calories they need for their body, so choose what is right for you. The label also shows some key nutrients that impact your health. Saturated fat, sodium, and added sugars are nutrients listed on the label that people generally consume too much of and can lead to negative health effects. These are nutrients to get less of. On the other hand, dietary fiber, vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium are nutrients that people generally do not get the recommended amount of and are important for good health. These are called nutrients to get more of. One way to help you determine if a food is a high or low source of a nutrient is to look at the percent daily value. The percent daily value shows how much a nutrient in a serving of food contributes to the daily recommended amount. For example, a serving of this food provides 7% of the recommended amount of sodium for the day. A general guide to percent daily value is 5% DV or less is considered low, 20% DV or more is considered high. More often, choose foods that are higher in percent daily value for dietary fiber, vitamin D, calcium, iron, and potassium, and choose foods that are lower in percent daily value for saturated fat, sodium, and added sugars. The next time you go to the store, use these tips to help you choose foods to best meet your nutrition needs.
All right, everybody. And so that was just a small video just talking a little bit about the nutrition fact labels. And so like what they highlighted is that we see like the serving size, the amount that contains as 1 serving, all values on the label correspond with that, but that does not mean that it's the recommended amount. So the serving size is the amount of food usually consumed. And so that is what people usually consume, but what you do and what I do are 2 different things, right? So you might feel like, oh, I might get 3 chips, and I might think that 10 chips are better. And so, you know, that's just what it's usually consumed. So it's different for different people. And so the portion size is what you actually choose to eat. Yes. So this is just a little bit about what happens at the top. So we see the nutrition facts label, and then we see the serving size or the servings per container, and then the serving size. And that is usually expressed in household measures. So you'll see like 2/3 cup, teaspoon, tablespoon, things like that up there. And so sometimes the packaging size of food will fall in between individual and like a sharing size. So something, you know, how when you might see those big grab bags that are bigger than the small little chips, but a lot smaller than the family size chips. And so you might see that they have this double column for that on the back of the serving side or the back of the nutrition facts label. And so the label on the right doesn't belong to these pretzels, but it's just like showing you what a dual column will look like. This format will make it a lot easier for you to see how many calories in each serving and versus how many are in the entire container. So for products that require further preparation, like pancake mixes and macaroni and cheese kits and cereal that need that milk extra, the manufacturer may choose to use that dual column as like what you actually have and then as prepared. So like if you look on the back of a cereal, it might have per serving for 1 cup of cereal, but then also it'll also have, if you add half a cup of milk or something like that, and it'll show the serving or all this information on here as well. So just keep it in mind that when you see things like this, you might see the entire container, you might see just per serving, whatever the case may be. And so calories are providing the fuel that we need to live. And so calories aren't necessarily it's not a bad thing, because it's just the food that we eat, it converts to the energy in order for us to get up and walk around and go on about our days. It is the energy that our body uses. And so when we see a measurement of, if you think that something might have too many calories or a moderate amount of calories, is you should just think that 400 is pretty high for calories, and then 100 is moderate, depending on a like 2,000 calorie diet. And so that might also be different for everybody, because everybody's different. Not everybody's eating 2,000 calories. Some people might need more, some people might need less, whatever the case may be. But you should talk to your primary care doctor in order to find where you fall in on that, so you'll know. But this is like that generalized, based on a 2,000 calorie diet that you see on the bottom of on the bottom of all the nutrition facts labels. So we should see that meals should be around 500 to 700 calories, and snacks should be around 100 to 300 calories. And so it's just the measure of energy that foods and drinks provide for us. That is what calories is. And so when we keep going down, we're going to go down all these different parts of the nutrition facts labels. We see that fat, this usually the highest number of calories per gram. Many people report that they also look at the fat listed on labels when they are like shopping and when they're comparing different things. So they have like the total fat, along with also saturated fat, and trans fats are also on the label. And so saturated fats are the fats that are solid at room temperature, like bacon fat and grease and things like that. Those are the ones that we want to try to avoid as much as possible, as well as trans fat. So the saturated fat, we want to try to limit to no more than 10% of all of our calories. And then trans fats are increased risk, could be an increased risk of heart disease if we eat a lot of it. So we just want to try to avoid it as much as possible. So if you are deciding that you want to go to the grocery store and you're looking at, and so we're actually looking at this example. So we go to the grocery store and we see two products that are right next to each other. They might be from the same brand, they might be from different brands, whatever the case may be. And you're like, oh, I just want to see what the difference is. Like, how can I look and compare and things like that. And so we see here that we see our serving sizes. It's about, serving size is 2 tablespoons unpopped, so that makes about 4.5 cups popped. And then here, this serving size is 1 bag unpopped, and that makes about 5.5 cups popped. And so the serving size is 5.5 cups. The serving size on the red side is 4.5 cups. And so we see our calories here, per cup popped, or per serving, excuse me, is 170 calories. And then here, the calories on the green side is 100 calories. And so we just see like the differences between the two. You go down, and so we see what could be the most important to you. So if you're looking to reduce your sodium intake, or if you're looking to reduce your sugar intake, or your protein and reduce your total fat intake, or if you're looking to increase your protein or your dietary fiber, it just depends on what you're trying to do, right? So here we can look, if we say that we want to try to limit our fats and saturated fats, we'll see here, and we're like, oh, the total fat on the left side, on the red side, per serving is 12 grams, saturated fat is 6 grams, and trans fat is 0 grams. And so then we go and we're looking in the grocery store and we see, oh, okay, on the green side, total fat is 2 grams, and saturated fat is 0.5 grams, and trans fat is 0 grams. And you're like, oh, okay, well, if that's something that you want to do, then you might decide to go with the green side, especially if the prices are comparable, and like one's not super more expensive than the other one. So it just depends on what you are trying to do, and what you're trying to accomplish with the goals that you have. Like we said, my goal is not your goal. It's not anybody else's goal. Sometimes people just want the popcorn. They just want the popcorn that tastes better. Okay, whatever you choose. And then some people are like, I am looking to reduce my sodium intake. So if we look here and we're trying to compare the popcorns, we see here sodium per serving is 320 milligrams. And then we go over here and we're like, sodium is 310 milligrams. So it's only a 10 milligram difference, but it could make a difference. So you might end up going with the green side versus the red side. And so it just depends. Or if you're looking to increase your fiber and you're looking for a snack that you could increase your fiber with, then here on the red side, the dietary fiber is 3 grams. And then on the green side, the dietary fiber is 4 grams. And you're like, oh, that's 1 more gram of fiber. That's 1 more gram of fiber that you might get throughout the day, just by eating this one snack. And you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe I should go on this side. It just depends on what your plan is, what you want to do. And it really does just depend on the person. And then we also see here with like shredded cheddar as well. So we see the original side and then the 2% milk or reduced fat side of shredded cheddar. And just comparing these two, you see the calories for the original is 110. The calories for the reduced, the 2% milk or the reduced is 90 calories. The serving sizes are the same. And you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe if you're looking to reduce your sodium intake, the original side is 170 milligrams, but the 2% sodium intake is 230. And so the 230 is a lot more than this, the sodium intake for the original. And so you're like, the total amount of fat might be a little bit lower from the reduced to the original, sure, but also the sodium is a lot higher in the reduced than it is the original. So sometimes it just depends. It's not all perfect, you know, it just depends on what you want to do. And so it depends on what's more important to you. If the total fat is just a little bit more, but if the sodium is a little bit more as well, what do you choose? And it's up to you. You make the best decision for yourself and your family. And then, so we're going to keep going down our nutritional facts label. We've done the serving size, the calories, and the total fat, talked about that. And then we're going to go to the cholesterol. Dietary cholesterol is needed by the body, but it's also produced by the body. However, higher amounts of cholesterol in our body might also increase our risk for heart disease and stroke. Cholesterol is only found in animal foods and not plant foods. So like oils and margarine and shortenings are cholesterol free because they're made from vegetable oils, but like butter and lard and fatback and things like that contain cholesterol because they're made from animal fats and products. So even lean meats, fishes, seafoods, and poultry contain cholesterol because it is an animal food. And so research shows that saturated fats and trans fats increase our LDL, which is the low density lipoprotein that's considered the quote unquote bad cholesterol. So that's why we want to try to just limit or lessen our cholesterol intake when we are looking at our foods as well. And so that's why this is also another important part of our nutrition facts label is if you go to the doctor and they're like, you have a higher cholesterol than normal. Maybe we want to try to limit our cholesterol or you have higher cholesterol, whatever the case may be. Or if you don't have high cholesterol and it runs in your family or whatever that process is. And we want to try to limit. That's why this is also on here as well. And so, excuse me, pardon me. And so we want to try to consume less than 300 milligrams per day of cholesterol. And so we are looking at foods that are, that's why we want to try to add in our fruits and vegetables into our diets and try to limit our or get lean meats and fishes and poultries, even though they do contain cholesterol. We want to just try to limit that as well and just add in more things instead of talking about taking away everything. Because who wants to take away, especially if you are a meat eater, who wants to take away the meat? We just want to add in some of the good things. So we might reduce the number of times that we eat meat during the week, but we add in some extra healthy, green leafy vegetables and things like that as well. So keep going down. We talk about sodium. Sodium also occurs naturally in some foods, but it's also added in during manufacturing when we see some of our canned food products and lots of frozen food products have added sodium in them as well. And then we also, when we go in the kitchen, we also add in sodium depending on what the product is or what the food is. And then some people even from there add in more sodium when they're at the table because it's just still bland for them as well. So when we see this on our nutrition facts label, that's something to take in account as well, as when we think about how much sodium do we add throughout the entire process of us cooking it and before we eat it. And so we might want to try to limit it from the beginning so that when we go through our processes, we can either limit the sodium that we add into our foods as well by using like the no sodium seasonings, or limit the amount of sodium that we use in our cooking and eating tasting process. And then also, did you know that celery, beets, and milk are just some of the few foods that you naturally find sodium in? And so the foods already have it, and then they add more during the processing. And so just keep that in mind when we are buying our products at the grocery store. So sodium intake should be minimized. 2,300 milligrams max per day, which is 1 teaspoon. Who just uses a teaspoon of salt? And so that's just the American Heart Association recommends 1,500 for people that have higher blood pressure and things like that. And then also most Americans consume 3,400 milligrams per day of sodium. And so just keep that in perspective when we are looking at our products. And so you might be thinking that you want to lower your salt intake. And so these are the most common foods that have sodium in them. It's called the salty six. We have breads and rolls. A lot of people don't really look at the back of the breads. And so they do, a lot of them do have higher sodium content as well. Cold cuts and cured meats, I think a lot of us know that, but they're still good on a good deli sandwich. Sandwiches as well. That charcuterie board trend has come around. And so a lot of people are now eating more like cold cuts and cured meats and things like that. And so just keep that in mind if you're looking to reduce your sodium. And there's also number 4 is pizza. A lot of the pizza, the toppings could have a lot of the sodium in it with like the pepperoni and things like that, the cheeses. And so we want to try to add in more vegetables into our. Nobody's saying not eat pizza. We all love a good slice of pizza, okay? We're not saying that. We're just saying possibly adding in more vegetables to that, or even limiting the cheese. You can ask them to just use half cheese instead of putting the whole, all of the amount of cheese if you're, ordering from a pizza store or whatever, or if you're making it at home. Then also soups. It is August, almost September. It's about to get cold. October, November, December, hopefully it gets cold this year. And so we all love good soups, but a lot of soups are higher in sodium as well. And so when you are at the grocery store, you know that buy one, get one, or 10 for 10, whatever deals coming around for you to buy soups now. Compare the back of the soups. And we've seen how we can look and compare that as well. And so just look to see if you can get soups that have, less sodium in them. And then also chicken also has one of the higher levels of sodium as well. And so we can reduce our sodium. If that's something that you're wanting to do, you can do it in 3 weeks. So they say, or you can do it, it doesn't have to be that short of time, or it could be, you can stretch it out and do however longer you want. But just start looking for lower sodium items and tracking your sodium consumption if that's something that you need to be doing. For week 2, You can just add in more fruits and vegetables and adding in fresh poultry rather than fried, canned, or processed. And then also look at lower sodium items, excuse me. And then also looking at our condiments as well. Those are one of the things that we don't really look at, and try to choose the less sodium or the no sodium added alternatives to that as well. And so it does take time, but when you start cooking less with sodium, your palate changes, your tongue changes. And so you might start enjoying foods with less sodium in them. And so I know when I started cooking more frequently at home, I don't really use a lot of sodiums. We started switching to the no salt added, or the no salt seasonings, and just adding just maybe a little bit of sodium. And at first, the first week or so, it was a little bland, just a little bit. But after a while, it started just tasting, this is the way that I've cooked it, and your tongue changes with you. And so give it some time. It might take time. It's okay. It might take just a little time, just a little bit. But give it some time. If that is something that you're wanting to do, if that is your goal, to start reducing the sodium intake or reduce the amount of sodium that you cook with, give it a little time. It'll happen eventually. It might take a week, might take 2, might even take 3. It's okay. It might be more than these 3 weeks up here, but it might take a little time for you to just be like, okay, maybe I don't have to add in salt at the table, or even removing the salt at the table, so that you have to make a conscious decision to get up and actually go get it. Instead of just doing something because you're in the habit of doing it. And so just give it some time. It'll change, start tasting a little better. And then you start cooking with less sodium, and then you'll go to a restaurant, and then all of a sudden, ooh, everything is salty. Ooh, I got a bag of chips the other week and they were so salty, I couldn't even eat them. Like, it was bad. And so give it some time, it'll work. And then also, we're going to keep going down. We talked about total fat, cholesterol, sodium. Now we're on the carbohydrates. There are 3 main types of carbohydrates in food, which is starches, sugars, and fibers. And so that's why you'll see under here fibers and sugar as well under our total carbohydrates. And so foods that are high in starch include things like starchy vegetables, peas, corn, lima beans, potatoes. There are like grains and dried beans, lentils, peas, pinto beans, kidney beans, all the beans. And then there are 2 main types of sugars: the naturally occurring sugars like in milk or in fruit. And then there's also the added, the total added sugars that we see now in our nutrition facts label that wasn't there before 2016, but now that they're added in, you always see the added amount of sugar, and that is the amount of sugar that they add in the processing. So like if you're thinking of canned fruit or something like that added in heavy sugar or something like that, that is those added sugars that come in. But there's also the natural sugar that's in the fruit already, and then they add in the heavy syrup or something like that. That is that added sugar. And so carbohydrates provide also most of the energy used by our body. So carbohydrates are good for us. There are dietary fiber, that the things that we want to increase as well, like they're naturally found in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, and that can provide lots of benefits. We all know the benefits of fiber, and why it's good for us. Fiber comes from plant foods, so there's no fiber in animal products like milk, eggs, meat, poultry, and fish. And so that's why we want to try to add in more plant-based foods as well. And so we see these arrows, like we want to add in more things, but then our sugar, we want to try to decrease our intake as well. And so sugars that, when we see sugars that are added during the processing of the foods, that's what that added sugars is. So there's also fruit and vegetable juice concentrates added to foods that for sweetening. And so we want to try to keep our added sugars under 10% of our total calories. So that'll be like 50 grams of sugar in a 2000 calorie diet. And like I said, that 2000 calorie diet is different for everybody. So it might not be 2000 exactly, but it just depends. And so if you do find out what your doctor recommends for your caloric intake for the day, then you can try to keep your added sugars under 10% of that. And so when we look on the back of our nutrition facts label, we'll see our ingredient list. And so, you know, we see sugars and then we're like, oh, there's just different types of sugars or different labels for it. So there's raw sugar, brown sugar, honey, dextrose, sucrose, all the oses. And so that's just something to take in mind when we are looking at the back of our food labels. And then also there's some different types of hidden surprises of where we actually find sugars in our foods. So like pasta sauces sometimes are higher in sugar, granola bars, yogurts are higher in sugar, instant oatmeals, depending on what flavor it is, salad dressings and coleslaw as well. And so we also see that these are the food category sources that have added sugar in them, like the highest amount. So beverages are one of the highest amounts of where we can find added sugars. And so that includes soft drinks, fruit drinks, sports and energy drinks, teas and coffees, and alcoholic beverages as well. And then next is snacks and sweets. Then we see grains, dairy, mixed dishes, condiments, vegetables, fruit juices, and things like that. This is going to be our recipe of the week is zucchini walnut bread. We will have this recipe available for you all. Unfortunately, I don't have a video showing you how to make this specific recipe of the zucchini walnut bread, but I do have a recipe on some chocolate zucchini mug cakes, things that you can make in your microwave so that you don't have to pull out the big loaf pan and spray that down. And so I'll give you all show you all the video of how you can make this chocolate zucchini mug cake. All right, everybody. So that is that chocolate zucchini mug cake. If you want to give it a try, it is on the Food Talk website. And so if I have my email at the end, if you would like to get that recipe, then I can send you that link as well. And so then we talked about our hidden sugars in our last couple of slides. And so this is just one of the examples of how yogurt labels or how yogurt has those hidden sugars that we might not have even thought. And so here on our nutrition facts label, this is the red side is the honey strawberry. And then on the white side is the green side is the traditional plain. And so on our honey strawberry side, we see under the total carbohydrates that the amount of sugar in this is 36 grams of sugar. And I think this is one of the older labels. So this is pre-2016, so it doesn't have in that added sugar label that we would see now. But here is 36 grams of sugar added to this, or not, excuse me, it's not added, but 36 grams of sugar in this product. And then on the plain side, we only see that the sugars are 15 grams. And so sometimes it does pay off more depending on what your goals are. Like I said, if you're looking to reduce your sugar intake, then possibly not getting this honey strawberry one and getting the plant and going home and adding your own honey strawberry or your own nut mixture or honey mixture, whatever the case may be. Maybe not even using honey and using some spices like cinnamon and nutmeg and adding that into that traditional plain yogurt so you can get still a whatever taste that you're looking for, just with less added sugar in it. And so that is what we mean by it's not really hidden because it's on the label, but it's just things that we wouldn't even think about when we are eating our foods or choosing our foods to eat from the grocery store. So moving on down to the protein part, it promotes muscle growth and maintenance as well as health of our organs and other tissues. You might get the highest amount of protein from animal products like eggs and things like that. But then there's also protein in non-animal products like nuts, peas, seeds, and lentils, things like that. Chickpeas are also really great sources of protein if you are looking for some non-meat alternatives as well. And so here is the DV percentage rule, the 5 and 20 rule. That is, the DV is the daily value percentage. And so when we're just at a quick glance of a product, we see that 5% or less is considered to be low and 20% or more is considered to be high. And so that could be for either thing. So a good for sodium or fat in a frozen entree, if it's 5% or less, in sodium and cholesterol and total fat, whatever the case may be. But it might not be so good if we see it in like calcium for yogurt or a fiber, things like that. That might be kind of low for that product. But then if we see 20% or more is high, so that could be, it might not be the best thing if we see the 20% or more is high in fat or in the cholesterol or in the sodium or even the total, the added amount of sugar. But it could be good for calcium and fiber and vitamins and things like that. So if it's in between any of those, just use your best judgment, especially if you're comparing two products and they're neither is high, but one might be 5% or one might be 20, 15%, whatever the case may be. And you're comparing products, just use your best judgment for that as well. So just a small little quick pop quiz, not really a pop quiz. I'll just go through it so you don't have to answer too much, but if you want to answer in your head, then feel free to do so. But which types of fat should we limit? And so the answers for that are saturated fats and trans fats. Those are the ones that we want to try to limit for our bodies. What limit does the dietary guidelines use for saturated fat? What limit does the dietary guidelines use for saturated fat? And that would be 10% of our calories. We want to try to limit our saturated fat to just 10% of our calories. Oops, that showed the answer already. And then what limit does the dietary guidelines use for trans fats? Getting it as little as possible. And so how to improve our food selections. I'm going to stop here. The word of the week is improve. The word of the week is improve for week 7. So if you are coming to any of our stops for Fresh on Deck Mobile Farmers Market, then you want to use this word improve. You have to tell us what the word is. We're going to say, do you have the word of the week? And you're going to say yes. And then we're going to ask you what that word is. And so you're going to have to tell us that the word is improve. So write that down down, have it with you so you don't forget, put it in your phone, write it on a piece of paper. We've had people write on pieces of papers and show us, and that's fine too, whatever you have so that you can have it, write it in and keep it with you. So when you come visit us, you can get up to $10 off of your purchase. So the word of the week is improved. And so how can we improve our food selections is by examining our labels of 1 to 2 food items at home. So look at the things that you might want to look to see, like it might be your favorite product, or it might be your least favorite product, whatever the case may be. It might be a bottle of ketchup. And so we want to try to examine our labels and see some of the things, especially if you use it often, you might want to do that as well and see some of the things that we could possibly improve on. So if you see that it is higher in added sugars, then you might want to go to the grocery store, put it on your list to see what other similar products are in those stores and comparing the nutrients of interest. And so it could be different for everybody. Some people are more interested in lowering their sodium intake. Some people are more interested in lowering their sugar intake. Some people are more interested in increasing their fiber intake. And that's okay, because I'm different than you and you're different from somebody else. And so we want to just take it 1 to 2 food items at a time. There is no need to just go into your pantry. It's very expensive to do that, to go in your pantry and just dump everything. We don't want to do that. Take 1 or 2 items at a time, go to the grocery store. You'll also save time that way when you go to the grocery store, because if you're looking to compare items, you won't be in the aisles for 2 hours at the grocery store looking back and forth between all the products in your cart. We want to just do 1 or 2 things at a time. It doesn't have to take all day. You could just take a couple minutes, whatever the case. It doesn't have to be a full, complete overhaul of your entire pantry. It could just be your top 5 favorite things that you want to look at over the next couple of weeks. And that could be a part of the goals that we have as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that later. And then also for our ingredient list, we see it is listed in descending order by weight. So the most plentiful ingredient is listed first. So we want to try to look for healthier ingredients, such as like whole grains and things like that, if that is something what you want to do. And sometimes it could be that you're looking to reduce your sugar and you don't want to look at the food level, but if you want to look at the ingredients and see if you're comparing between items, where does the sugar fall in on the ingredient list, you might want to look at it that way instead. It's whatever floats your boat. And so when we look at our nutrient claims, when we go to the grocery store, we see all these words, all these flashy words, new, in season, blah, 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 all these things on packaging because the packaging looks nice. They're really good at marketing things towards us. And so we want to know what these actual claims mean on our products. And so if you see the term free, fat-free, sugar-free, calorie-free, whatever, free, except for the price, everything free but the price. Free means it contains no amount or only small trace amounts of nutrients. So it could be fat-free, calorie-free, sodium-free. If we see low, then it could be per serving. So that would be 10 calories or less, 3 grams or less of fat, 1 gram or less of saturated fat, 20 milligrams or less of cholesterol, and 140 milligrams or less of sodium. That is what is considered to be low per serving. Reduced means it contains at least 25% less of a nutrient than the original version. Keep in mind, though, that if you're looking at a bag of chips and, the original version's sodium is super high, super high, the reduced version of that contains only 25% less of that nutrient than the original. So it only contains 25% less of that sodium. And while that is better, it still could be very high in sodium as well. So keep that in mind if you're looking at reduced as well. A good source of contains 10 to 19% of the daily value of a nutrient. So like we were saying, we want to try to look for products that are 20% or more of particular nutrients. And so 10%, 10 to 19% is considered to be a good source when we look at those nutrient claims on that product. And if you see an excellent source or a high source, that contains 20% or more of the daily value of a nutrient. If you see something that says no salt or sugar added, that means that there's no salt or sugar added during the processing, but that does not mean that it is salt or sugar free. Like we said, that some products are just naturally occurring in fruit. So like an apple. So we see that an apple, a regular apple, might have sugar already in it. And so if you are looking like at an apple pastry or something that is made out of fat, that's been processed, then sometimes it could, if you see that a product is processed, and it has no salt or sugar added, that just means that there's no salt or sugar added in that processing of it, but the apple already contains sugar in it. So that doesn't mean that it's sugar free. And then if you see something that's light, LITE, it just means that the food normally has 50% or more of its calories from fat. And then the light product must have half of the fat of the regular version as well. So that's just what those nutrient claims, what the marketing on the product means for us when we are looking and going in the grocery store. So next is going to be our physical activity suggestion. I like showing these. I'm going to keep telling y'all every week. I like showing these just so that you can see people in different bodies doing different things. And so if you are not an outdoor person like me, or if it's going to be raining all week, like it's going to be this week or majority of the week, and you don't want to be outside in that, then you can do these at home with minimal or no equipment, nothing fancy. If you don't have weights or anything like that, you can use your own body weight, or like the one video previously, she was using a book, or you can use water bottles, just not glass so you don't drop and break it, but be safe when you're at home as well. So I'm just going to show you just a little bit of this. And if you are interested in looking at more of it, then just send me an email and I will have it sent to you as well.
Where's my booty cheeks to come back up? So this is similar to a Romanian deadlift, but instead of coming all the way down towards the floor, we have this bench as kind of like a marker. So just in case, if I need something to lean on, we've got this here. That's how I can keep my body safe while still getting a great workout. Come on down, squeeze those cheeks up. How about one more? One more. Let's come on down. And squeeze those cheeks all the way up. Woo! Shake it out. Shake. It's because it takes advantage of Quadzilla 1 and Quadzilla 2. And we know that on plus size bodies, our legs are some of the strongest places. So let's utilize that. Excellent. Notice that when I do these movements, whether I'm standing or sitting, I make sure that my pelvis stays forward, even as my shoulders and the upper half of my body rotate. Excellent. Let's sit on down and boom, boom. Oh, let's pause for a second.
All right, that is just a small snippet of that video, just to give you a different feel of the different types of activities that they're out there, if you're looking to be more physically active. And so just some of the take-home messages for week 7 is just to read some labels more often, focus on 1 to 2 nutrients at a time, and so you don't have to do the complete overhaul all at once. If there's something that you're interested in reducing or even increasing, you can do an increase and a reduction. That could be your 2. So that could be reducing salt and increasing fiber, whatever the case that you want to do, and start with that first. Start with 1 or 2 products at home as well, so it's not super overwhelming. Small steps are still steps, and so it doesn't have to be throwing my entire pantry away and starting from scratch. That's expensive, first off. Don't do that. I'm not suggesting you do that at all. If that's what you want to do, more power to you. But I wouldn't do that. Because things are expensive. And so just start with 1 or 2 products. It could be your favorite product or a little more product that you use the most at home, and start from there and looking at a better product at store that fits the needs that you're looking at. And so by changing 1 product a week, you can have a whole new eating pattern or have new taste buds, like I said, with your salt reduction, by whatever time that you want to end it, if that is a part of your goals. Speaking of goals, we'll talk about how we turn our big goals into smaller, SMART goals. If you're just now joining us, or if you want a refresher, even if you don't want the refresher, I'm still going to give it to you. Our SMART goals are, it's an acronym for S, specific, M, measurable, A, attainable, R, realistic, and T for time bound. And so that basically just means that we want to be specific with the things that we want to achieve. We want to make it measurable for ourselves to actually know that we're succeeding and that we're holding ourselves accountable towards that. A is attainable. So making sure that you actually have the right tools and time and resources necessary to achieve our goals and not setting ourselves up for failure. R is realistic as well, making sure that it's something that we're able to do to have long-term success. And then T is time bound, having a start, a frequency, and a deadline as well. And so here they have the 2 prompts, like, what are your goals? I'm going to eat healthy and I want to exercise more. And those are great goals to have. But those are also really big goals. And there's also different ways that you can go about getting to those goals as well. And so when we're making a SMART goal, we want to make it specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. And so here we see our new goal could be, beginning this weekend, I'll fill 2/3 of my plate with fruits and vegetables at every meal 4 days a week. And like I say in the past, like I've been saying, this goal might look different for somebody else, and that's okay. Because then this might be something that they already do, might be something that you already do, is I already eat lots of fruits and vegetables. I'm looking to reduce my sodium intake. And so that's cool. So you can add in, beginning this week, I'll only season with no salt added seasoning blends at 1 meal 3 times a week, or 2 meals 2 times this week, whatever the case may be, just so that you can get a feel of whatever your goal or what you want to achieve. And then you can always change it from there as well. And then also here we see somebody that's saying, I want to exercise more. That's great. How can we make that into a SMART goal? Beginning Monday, I'll do at least 30 minutes of activity 5 days a week. That could be too much. That's too much for me right now. And that's okay. We start small. Like I was telling weeks prior that I started riding the stationary bike, and I started with 30 seconds really, and then I did my 30 seconds and I jumped right on off, and I was like, tomorrow it'll be a minute. And then the next day I did the minute, and then I jumped right on off. As soon as that 59 at a minute, I was already off. And so then the next day I was like, I'll add 30 more seconds. And then I did a minute and 30. Now you just keep on going until you hit whatever goal that you want to do. And then after I hit 5 minutes, I start going up by a minute. So then the next week I did, by the time I get to 10 minutes, I'll add another minute, or I'll add 5 minutes to that, whatever fits best for you, whatever you know that your body can do, then you do it that way. But you just have your goals here. You make it realistic. I made it realistic for myself. I can do 30 seconds, in my head. I think I could do 30 seconds. So let's try 30 seconds. Because if I was like, I'm just going to get on the stationary bike and do 30 minutes all at once, I wasn't going to make that. And that's not realistic for me, because if you haven't been active in a while, that's not just realistic for yourself. So I knew I had to start small. Like I said, small steps are still steps. I had to start real small, and that's cool too. So for here, that might be too much for somebody. 30 minutes a day for 5 days a week. We want to start a little bit smaller. So beginning Monday, I'll do at least 1 lap around my neighborhood for 2 days this week after work, something like that for a month. Or it could be if you can't make it through your neighborhood, or if it's not safe for you to do so in your neighborhood, beginning Monday, I'll do 2 laps up and down my driveway 2 days this week for the next month, whatever the case may be, however that might look for you in your life. So just keep that in mind. So my name is Jamel Hawkins. You can find my email here, JAM as in Mary, ILLE.Hawkins, HAWKINS, at UGA.edu. Here are our websites, our Facebook, our Instagram. It's Fresh on Deck, Fresh on Deck, Fresh on Deck. And so here on the right, we also have our QR code for our evaluation that I will ask you all. I'm going to keep asking next week on the recorded video. I'm going to ask still for you all to go to this QR code or for the website link down at the bottom to fill out the evaluation. For this one, you can put week 7, nutrition swaps, nutrition labels, whatever the case may be. Also, if you see us this week, request the kitchen gadget, and then we'll also be at these different locations for this week. And next Monday is a holiday for DeKalb County. It is Labor Day. So that means that all Tuesday stops are going to be canceled due to the Labor Day holiday, and we will resume on Wednesday, September 6th, 2023. But also on Tuesday, we will have our end of the season celebration. I want to have this for you all here, but you will also receive flyers if you come join us this week. We will be at Trucking Tuesdays at Legacy Park, 500 South Columbia Drive in Decatur, Georgia, in Decatur, Georgia, from 5 to 8 p.m. You can join us there. The Word of the Week promotion is not applicable because this is a special event for the end of the season celebration, but we hope to see you all there, and we hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you all later.